Welcome to Boomer Bongo Boulevard. I'm Mike, just Mike. Along with me is Ron, just Ron. This is season 3, episode 21, number 111. Don't forget to subscribe, Ron. We've been getting some good results with people adding on as subscribers lately, and it's not a huge number, but it's a lot bigger than it used to be, and we're just committed to continuing to build. If folks will continue to like to listen,
Yeah,
the
we'll be around.
our topic our topic for tonight is stand-up comedians. We're just going to wing it, I guess. We got a lot of things to talk about, and we won't
Yeah.
get to talk about all of them, but we want to talk about stand-up comedians. And I'm going to turn it over to you at first just to get us started.
All right. Well, first one I have written down here is, to me, one of the biggest ones of my lifetime. In fact, probably the biggest, and probably most people don't even think about him as being a stand-up, or even remember him being a stand-up if you're, not a certain age. And I'm going with that wild and crazy guy, Steve Martin. He
Oh,
multimedia. He started out in music. He went into comedy. He wrote comedy for the Smothers Brothers. One of the things that surprised me the most was I looked up to see if he had ever won the Grammy for Best Comedy Album, and he had not. He's won 5, but they're all
no,
for
no way.
bluegrass and country and no comedy whatsoever. But the thing I also looked
He's
up, I wanted to see what comedians had played before the biggest audiences. He by far had the biggest at the Nassau Veterans Memorial Stadium in Uniondale, New York, in 1978. He played in front of 45,000 people at an outdoor stadium. That's amazing to me for a stand-up comic, because most of the big ones only play for 6,500, maybe 7,
right.
usually 3 or
That's a
four
big number.
thousand. But you know,
Yeah, it's usually like a theater, like
yeah, yeah,
like.
exactly.
But
But he had
yeah, he was a
hosted Saturday Night
stadium
Live early
stand-up.
and just gotten huge and rode that wave from hosting so many times the first couple of years. And we were talking about earlier how he a lot of people considered him, thought that he was an early cast member because he was on there so much, but he wasn't. Even though he had a lot of running
Right,
characters
and
like the wild and
he
crazy
didn't.
guy, and you know,
Yep. Well, he didn't hesitate to do cameos either.
yeah,
He would come in and do
he would
one
just show up
cameo for
sometimes.
one skit and
Mhm.
disappear. Yeah, and non-credited. But yeah, I agree
Yeah,
with you. I can't think of any other comedian that
Steve
sold out
Marino.
stadiums. It was like the Beatles. He was the Beatles of comedy,
Yeah,
and he's still
and
going
he was like
today.
a
He's
rock
got a
star. He
television
really
series
was.
right now on.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mhm.
he's
Hulu.
he just does not slow down. He's got several classic movies, and The Jerk is the one that comes to mind. And we've talked about The Jerk before. Ron, I wanted to talk
Mhm.
about some comedians that you start naming off the greats, and maybe they get overlooked. Bob Newhart's one. Bob Newhart
Mhm.
was a pure stand-up for several years and had this routine. His
Yeah.
most popular routine was a one-way telephone conversation. You'd hear him talking to somebody, but you'd only hear what Newhart was saying, and he killed. He had comedy albums that were big. Button
Yeah.
Down World was his first big one, and that really made his bones.
Uh,
And then he got over into TV and had the Newhart and the Bob Newhart show and a couple of other shows that didn't do quite as well. And another is Flip Wilson, who's almost completely forgotten now, but he seemed
oh,
like
I
he was at
know.
the top of the heap back in the late '60s, I guess, early '70s,
In early
and
'70s, yeah. Because I remember watching his
there
shows.
was
One of my
nobody who
favorite
wasn't on the
shows.
Flip Wilson show.
Yeah.
Geraldine had all the running
Yeah. He's one
characters,
of those early
and of course he was an outstanding stand-up comedian
Geraldine.
for years. Um, yeah, a comedian that gets cited a lot and had great influence, but a lot of times slips to the wayside or people don't think of him. is Jonathan Winters. Robin Williams worshipped Jonathan Winters. He was very fond of the ground that Jonathan Winters walked on. And so, you know, that's
I like
a
Jonathan
really big.
Winters. Yeah.
What?
He also had
was
a show,
offbeat,
as I recall.
and sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, you know, he's one of the. He had a nothing ever stuck with him though. He reminds me of Don Rickles. They kept, you know, I'm sure these producers kept looking at Jonathan Winters and thinking there's got to be a show for him, and nothing ever worked. And they did the same thing with Don Rickles. There's got to be a format where he'll really hit, and he never really did. You know what, Ron?
Yeah.
Drew Carey, another really popular comedian who doesn't get much credit anymore.
Yeah.
They kept trying to. They kept trying him in different shows for the longest time, and then the Drew Carey show
hit. A big hit now. Now his show's on for 8 years.
Not Ron. I don't know if you heard what I just said, but the networks tried him in 2 or 3 other shows before that, and they didn't do anything.
Yeah, they did.
But they just kept trying to bring him back, and he finally hit. And you know you don't and that caused, and now he's a game show host, and it causes people to. Excuse me, I just sneezed there. It caused people to discount him. The sneeze is the funniest thing I've said tonight. Excuse me. I think, you know, I've been cutting the yard today, Ron. And you know what happened? You know, all that grass chips in. Give me some insights you have on these stand-ups.
Well, I was kind of sticking with some that made a lot of records, and somebody that was famous, really famous first for making records before he got way famous later on TV was Red Fox, who was famous for his really blue party records, as they were known in the 50s through the 70s, because they were just, you know, so really graphic.
They were almost bootleg. They were passed around in secret and played at high school. You know, the coolest high school guys had a Red Fox 8-track that they would play when their buddies were in the car. I don't think I'm going to stop sneezing. This is okay. Here we go.
Well, I'll just keep talking then. You can just sneeze over, you know, along with it or in rhythm or. You know, I was thinking about. You know, something about Steve Martin releasing a lot of records and never won a comedy Grammy. Now, a couple of guys here that did win a lot of comedy Grammys and released a ton of records and did a ton of specials, and one of them even did a lot of hit movies. I'm talking about George Carlin and Richard Pryor. They're kind of like the godfathers of the modern stand-up comics, because Richard
can't
Pryor
overlook Richard Pryor.
Released movies in theaters, and they would be huge.
Well, George Carlin's still.
Oh,
George Carlin's still quoted extensively today.
20-something, you know. You can still see those. They're easy to see. That they have.
You know, if they ever
give readily available. And
if they ever give a Nobel Prize for comedy, George Carlin would have won it.
Yeah. You know, a lot of the young people almost think he's like a philosopher now, I think. Because they're always citing things he
was.
Said. That's you know. He was a funny guy.
I mean, everybody's got to have an angle.
Yeah.
Bob Newhart's was the telephone, and Flip Wilson was the costumes and the Geraldine characters, and then there were a few comics like George Carlin who were philosophers, but he was the philosopher comic.
Yeah,
and he really influenced other comedians a lot. Not, and I guess Jerry Seinfeld's the anti-philosopher. He refuses to have a philosophy. He's just going to be funny. You talked about Red Fox had no philosophy. He just told you. You know who Red Fox reminds me of is Rodney Dangerfield and Stephen Wright. All three of those guys were just joke, stacked on top of joke, joke, and then they just had different speeds. Yeah. Rodney Dangerfield was 90 miles an hour. Stephen Wright was 2 miles an hour, and Red Fox was somewhere in between. Just stacking one joke on top of the other.
You know,
The
I didn't look up a lot about him, but I happened to think about one. Maybe this would kind of trip something in your head. A guy that used to be big in the 70s. I used to see him all the time on Tonight Show. He even used to host the Tonight Show all the time, and he was really funny. And then he just vanished. David Brenner.
Oh, well, yeah, that's true. He just got, well, of course he died relatively young, and that didn't help. But he it seemed like he was about to make that big leap to just be a superstar, and things just never worked. And he kind of reminds me, we were talking about Drew Carey a minute ago. The networks got behind him for a while, and then they just didn't seem to be that interested anymore. Ron, we haven't talked about any about these female comics that were influential, but I guess Joan Rivers is the
Oh,
most influential
yeah,
female comedian.
absolutely.
She got big, and she was set up to be huge, and then she got into that feud with Johnny Carson, and she got a late night show on across from Carson, and Carson kind of cut her loose, and that set her back for a while. She remade herself like good entertainers will. Yeah, she did, but not as a talk show host. Her talk show just kind of meandered around, but she became this celebrity who commented on other celebrities, and she was the red carpet hostess. And,
Yeah.
and that showed great imagination on her part. I wrote down a few other women that were influential. Oh, yeah. Have you ever heard of Toady Fields?
Yes, and
Toady
I
Fields.
know a lot of people didn't think much
She
of
was
her.
huge. And she was real big for a while, and then she just kind of like, well, I'm done with my career, and you didn't hear too much. I guess she never really got out of that nightclub circuit, but she was on television all the time for a while. And here's a name, Elaine Boozler.
I remember her.
Was a big time female comedian. I think women have a harder time.
I think so too.
Converting over into something other than stand-up comedy than men do. I think it's just much more difficult. Paula Poundstone, who got in some kind of controversy, I don't remember that much about it, but
I don't either.
But that caused her to kind of fall off the stage, and she shows up from time to time even now, always very funny, but and doing very unorthodox things and unorthodox subjects, but kind of faded away. Women just have a harder time establishing this long term. There are no female Steve Martins, I don't think. Joan Rivers would be the closest.
Well, let's not forget about Roseanne. Roseanne Barr. She was.
Oh, you know what? I've got a note about Roseanne Barr and Little Star. She did. Roseanne is.
She was a big star.
And she's shifted around in different directions too and overcome some things. And she still manages to stay relevant no matter what she does. You're right. And kudos to Roseanne Barr. And hey, kudos to Danny DeVito.
It's incredible, you know.
Oh, sure. She was super. I made a list here, Ron, of comedians that had a particularly big influence on television and had real success in television. Jack Benny, one of the great stand-up artists and one of the early stand-up artists, came over from vaudeville.
Wow.
Bob Newhart we mentioned. Red Skelton. What about Red Skelton?
I loved Red Skelton.
Flip Wilson we mentioned. Don Rickles we mentioned. Johnny Carson, host of the Tonight Show, started his show every night with a stand-up routine.
Red Skelton.
Bob Hope. Steve Harvey. Who are you being now?
I was imitating Red Skelton doing the seagulls.
Oh. Gertrude and Heathcliff?
Yeah. Do you know he gave Johnny Carson
You know who we haven't mentioned, Ron? No, I did not.
Yes, he did. Johnny Carson adored Red Skelton because he gave Johnny his first job in show business. Johnny never forgot it, so he would always have him back on Tonight Show. You can find it somewhere on YouTube. It's an appearance by him on Oh no, the Tonight Show, and Johnny's just fawning all over Red Skelton and just profusely thanking him and telling the story about how they
Well,
got
sure.
started. It's pretty good. He was talking about what a great guy
What did he
Red
hire him as a
is, and
writer?
how nice he was.
Did he hire him as a writer?
I don't remember the exact story. All I know is that he basically went out of his way to help him. It was very, it wasn't just like, hey, let's hire this guy. It was like he took a interest in helping him, kind of a mentor kind of a thing.
Ron, I can just hear somebody watching this or listening to this and saying, wait a minute, what about the earliest guys that influenced everybody, Milton Berle and Sid Caesar? And you know why I haven't mentioned them? Because I think they're the most overrated comedians in the history of comedians. I don't think Milton Berle ever made me laugh one time, and Sid Caesar always just seemed like a nasty human being. And I don't know if he was or not, but he struck me as a mean person. And I don't know that a comedian that strikes me as a mean person does not make me laugh. So that's why they're not in here, and they're not going to be in here because basically I don't think they were funny. I know that's just my taste, but I don't think very many modern people think of them as funny either. And I guess we ought to mention, because his personal activities set him aside and set him on the shelf, but the trailblazer in all this was Cosby, Bill Cosby. He had the hit records. He had the comedy records. Everybody used to listen to them. Little kids loved him, and he blazed a trail for comedians being actors, serious actors in the old I Spy series.
Mm-hmm.
But he's just been written completely off, rightfully so. And sometimes your behavior's so egregious that you just take yourself out of the game. That's what Cosby did. But we have to mention him as far as being influential. He started things, and then he had to step aside and not really get too much credit for it. I guess he's the O.J. Simpson of comedians, as far as I can tell.
Well, I'm sure plenty
they took
of
away his
All-American
trophy.
I'm sure plenty of All-American football players and military veterans would mention Bob Hope as well. Even though I never thought Bob Hope was particularly funny, but he was definitely, he was one of the big guys. He had all his writers and everything.
Well, Bob Hope could make me laugh, though.
Yeah, he was amusing.
I'll watch an old Bob Hope routine, and I'll laugh pretty hard at a couple of his jokes. They're not bad. They're just old school. To me, he's just old school, but he is funny.
Mm-hmm.
And he can really make me laugh. He kind of almost falls into the Johnny Carson category as far as his style. It's just telling some jokes, and obviously they were written for him. And he even makes reference to his writers when he's doing his stand-up. But his delivery's pretty impeccable. You could do a lot worse than to imitate Bob Hope. That's certainly for sure. I have a song of the week, Ron.
All right.
I have a song of the week, and you know what it is, don't you? What do you think the song of the week is?
King Tut.
Oh my gosh, you're psychic. Yes, King Tut, Steve Martin. It only went to number 17 in the country in 1978, but it seemed like every time you turned the radio on, you saw it. And when Steve Martin, for a while, when he made an appearance on a variety show, on somebody else's show, something like that, or came on Saturday Night Live, he debuted the song on Saturday Night Live and had the members of the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band backing him up. And what a great, great, fun novelty song, and maybe the greatest, in my opinion, but up there with Monster Mash as one of the great novelty songs of all time. That's great. I wish I had a prize for you, Ron. I was confident, though, you would get it right.
Yeah, you had a feeling.
Any final words on stand-up comedians?
No, I think I talked about everybody but Eddie Murphy, but hey, we know who Eddie Murphy is. He was great kind of stand-up, though.
He's getting almost more modern.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, he was. He was Eddie Murphy. Well, he had the first great stand-up special, I guess, didn't he? Now all the streaming channels have feature stand-up comedies and
Yeah.
comedian specials, and I think Eddie Murphy blazed the way for that. I can't think of anybody else that they did a movie
He got
because that
bigger
was
faster
released
than
as a
anybody else.
movie.
He was
His
very
first
young.
stand-up.
He was very young when he
Oh
got
yeah, he
big.
did.
Yeah.
He did, and he deserved it.
Yeah. He was
He
great.
was a funny guy, uh,
All right.
Eddie
Well, I think
Murphy.
I'm about wound
All
up
right,
here.
I guess that's about it for stand-up comedians tonight.
I'm about ready to
Yeah,
sit down and
we
see
may
what's
have to
going.
do some editing here, Ron, because we had some technical issues tonight. Hopefully, it won't be too obvious when we download everything, but we'll try to get things together next week.